Hey there, I'm Katie Fisher, owner and founder of Creative Balance. I teach creative business owners how to take control of their finances and understand their numbers. And Ashley has asked me to come talk to you guys today about how to track your expenses. But before we get started doing that, I wanted to cover a few basics of I guess just good housekeeping when it comes to bookkeeping. So I wanted to go over a couple things with you guys. For one, always try to keep your business and personal expenses separate. So as of right now, if you are running your operation as a business and not as a hobby, then you should have a separate business and a separate personal checking account, and you should be paying your business expenses out of that business account. I understand stuff happens, stuff comes up, life is busy. I'm a mom too, I totally get it. The main thing is when you do pay for personal things out of your business account, make sure that you are accounting for those properly. So those would be what's called an owner's draw when it comes to accounting purposes. You would want to make sure that you account for that money. And so if you were ever to get audited, you would not be double taxed on it. So especially if you're transferring money between a personal and a business account, you want to make sure that you're documenting that correctly and making sure that you put owner's draw on both ends of the transaction, so that way the IRS doesn't try to double tax you on that. Same as if you put any personal money into your business checking account, make sure you mark that as owner's contribution, so that way the IRS knows, hey, I've already been taxed on this money, and they don't try and double tax you. Okay, the main thing is just account for your transactions properly, make sure you're documenting them properly. The more notes, the better, and you can't go wrong from there. So another helpful tip that I wanted to share with you guys, because I know, like myself, most creative business owners' favorite store is Hobby Lobby. Now here's the thing, with Hobby Lobby receipts, their receipts don't actually tell you what you purchased. They have a very vague description. So when we were audited in 2016, I kind of had to go to bat with the IRS and argue with them about the receipts. And unfortunately, I did not have descriptions on all of my receipts, and so that was my bad. But in order to help that not happen to you guys, when you purchase something from Hobby Lobby or Dollar General or Dollar Tree, because Dollar Tree's receipts are very similar, make sure you put what you purchased and how you used it for business purposes, because Dollar Tree often just says like the item number, and Hobby Lobby will say like wearable arts, home decor, paint, supplies, things of that nature. And so it's hard for the IRS to distinguish what exactly you use that for, especially when it says things like home decor. So for example, if you purchased a picture frame, but then redid that picture frame and sold it, they would have a hard time seeing that you used that as like a cost of goods sold and not as a decoration for your home, and just said that it was a business expense. So that's why it's important to note those transactions and make sure that you're accounting for them properly. But let's get into tracking expenses and what expenses you should be tracking. And I will make sure you guys have a copy of this spreadsheet right here so you can print it out and kind of use it as a little checklist if you choose. So before we get into, and I'm going to cover this a little bit at the end, how should I be tracking my transactions? And like I said, I'm going to go into this a little bit more at the end, but there's a lot of different ways. You can use QuickBooks. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I use. You can use a notebook. I have several different clients that just use a regular notebook like this. This is what I use to track our week-by-week transactions, because we own a construction company and a checkbook general ledger is just not big enough. And so I use a notebook to help keep it all organized. So don't overcomplicate things, you guys. Keep it simple. But I'm going to show you guys a couple of different options for tracking your expenses at the end of this video. So here are the expenses you guys should be tracking. I know you guys are probably going to have a few questions about this, and I believe there will be a Q&A later to kind of answer any questions that you guys might have, but let's cover the general basics. So advertising, what should fall under advertising? So your website, your social media ads, business cards, trade show signage. Also, what would fall under here is if you sponsor your children's sports teams and their jerseys have your name or your logo on it, that would be considered advertising, okay? Insurance, so business liability and business asset. We're going to talk about auto insurance a little bit later on, but for insurance purposes, in this category, you would just include business liability and business assets. So labor, let's say that you have somebody working for you. Where do different things go? So commission would be what you are paying out if you are paying somebody a commission for sales for you. Wages would what you would be paying a W-2 employee or an hourly employee, okay? Subcontractor fees. This is probably where most of your guys' expenses are going to come in. If you hire somebody to create a logo for you, that is going to go under subcontractors. If you hire someone to create a website for you, the design part of it is going to go under subcontractors. The actual fee that you pay to the website hosting company is going to go under advertising, okay? So if you are paying somebody to do a one-time or short-term contract service for you, that would go under subcontractors. Okay, so let's talk about taxes a little bit. So taxes here, what you're going to claim here is your business license and permits and taxes. Now, this is not sales taxes, you guys, and this is not taxes that you paid. This is like property taxes if you have business assets that you're paying property taxes on. So that's what would be included there. Or if you have a vehicle that is used for business use, business use purposes, then you would be able to claim that sales tax, okay? So that's what this expense category right here is for. Let me turn my little pointer on for you guys. I apologize. I've been pointing at things and you guys probably didn't even know what I was pointing at, so forgive me for that. Okay, so professional fees right here. Let me make sure that, I hope you guys are able to see my mouse. Okay, so professional fees right here. These are legal consultations. So if you had to hire a lawyer, if you had to pay to have your LLC done, that's what would fall under this category. Your accounting and your bookkeeping would also fall under this category. Or if you hire a business consultant, then that would fall under professional fees. Bank fees. Now, again, if you have your business and personal transactions separated, then you can claim bank fees. So you can claim your ATM fee if you have to pay for an ATM fee, monthly service fees, or late payment fees, or overdraft fees if needed. Cost of goods sold. This is where it gets a little bit confusing, and some of you guys are like, what goes where? So here's the deal. We're going to break this down a little bit more, and I'm sure you guys are going to have questions about inventory, but I'm going to try and break it down the best that I can for you guys. So let's cover materials really quick. So what goes under materials? Anything that you purchase that goes into the production of your product is considered a raw good. Those raw goods are then claimed as cost of goods sold or materials. Some people call them supplies. So supplies, materials, cost of goods sold are all the same thing. For accounting purposes, there's no reason to differentiate them. So however you choose to refer to them for your information is fine. So cost of goods sold, materials, and supplies, again, are all the same thing, and they are the raw goods that go into producing your product. So what is inventory, and should I be tracking it? This is probably the most complicated part of accounting. Some people say that inventory is not necessary. Other people say that it is. Let me tell you this. The IRS wants you to be tracking inventory. And once your business reaches a certain level, it is to your benefit that your business is tracking inventory. So what is inventory? Inventory is anything that you purchased on, so say you purchased it on January 1st, and you still have, okay, let's break it down like this. So you purchased a bulk of 12 cups, because that's what you guys sell, the majority of you guys. So you purchased 12 cups. You purchased a bulk order of 12 cups on January 1st. I know this would never happen, so don't think that I'm thinking that, but y'all still have 5, let's say y'all still have 6 left on December 31st, okay? So now those cups that you have left on December 31st, you are now going to carry over into the next year, okay? So what's going to happen is the IRS is going to consider those inventory. Those 6 cups that you have left, they're going to consider those inventory, and they are going to want to know the cost of those 6 cups that you carried over from one year into the next year, okay? So anything that you have left on January 31st, I'm sorry, on December 31st of 2020, the IRS wants to know the value of what you have left. Now, here's the thing. They're not going to care about glitter. They're not going to care about the decals. They're not going to care about any of that, because those things have to be weighed. They have to be broken down by unit. They're very hard to figure out how much you actually used, how much the cost per unit is. And so they allow you to deduct small things like that as a whole at one time. And they don't expect you to include inventory for those. However, they do expect you to take inventory on the things that can be easily counted. So for your guys' purposes, cups would be easily counted. So let's say, for example, you guys paid $12 for the 12 cups, right? So the IRS would allow you to take $6 as cost of goods sold, and you would be required to carry over the other $6 as inventory, okay? So I know that breaks it down really simple. If you guys have questions when it comes to the live Q&A, I'm happy to answer it and explain it a little bit further. But glitter, anything that cannot be easily counted, you do not have to claim as inventory, okay? All right, so auto mileage and fees. So your business or your vehicle insurance is to be kept separate. Your interest on your car notes, your gas, your mileage, your parking tolls, and your repairs. Now you will take a percentage of this based off the business miles that you drove. So here's what you can do. You need to be tracking your mileage to pick up supplies. On the way home does not count. You need to be tracking your mileage to drop off packages at the post office. Again, on the way home does not count. You need to be tracking if you're dropping things off for customers, you need to be tracking that one way. So there counts, home does not. So be tracking that mileage so you guys are not missing out on a deduction that may help you reduce your tax liability. Education, what is that? So education are books and references that tie directly to your trade. So for example, one example that I give often is I had purchased a book by Christy Wright. I can deduct that. I had purchased an enrolled agent book, which is an IRS study guide. I can deduct that because it relates directly to my trade. Professional development, which would be this course that you guys are taking with Ashley, and training and workshops. So any courses that you guys take or any training and workshops, conferences that you guys take that tie directly to your trade can be deducted as education for business purposes. Dues and fees. So these would be your Etsy seller fees, your Photoshop fees, your business subscription, your Canva fee. So anything that you guys are paying a subscription for that is used for business purposes. So interest fees. So finance charges, bank loan interest, again, only if it is for business purposes. Rental. So if you are renting a booth for something, if you are renting a table for a craft fair, all of those things would be deductible under rentals. Okay, so home office expenses. This is your postage, your software, your supplies, your phone and internet. Those things would go under home office expenses. Okay, Business use of home is another category that is intended to be broke down separately and not all bunched together. So you're going to have your insurance, you're going to have your interest on your mortgage, which you'll get an interest mortgage statement from your bank, your property taxes, your utilities, and then your repairs. Now, what is considered business use of home, you are only allowed to deduct the square footage that you use exclusively for business. So if you have a room that you're using exclusively for business, then you can deduct the entire room. If you have a room that is also a guest bedroom, but half your office, then you can only deduct the space that is used for exclusively for business. This is not an area that you guys want to elaborate or try and stretch a dime. Be very specific and make sure you only take what you are allotted. It's often one of the areas that they question during an audit, and it's not something that you want to be found slipping on. Not that any is, it's best to be honest and pay what you owe, but it's definitely worth trying to save what you can. So let's talk about tracking different expenses. Let me stop sharing here. Okay, so let's talk about tracking our expenses. How should we be tracking them? So this all depends on you, what you prefer. So QuickBooks Self-Employed is an amazing option. It ties directly into Etsy, Shopify. It doesn't, you have to install some apps, but it ties directly to your bank accounts, and the automated process is there. If you're like, hey, that's a little over my head, I'm not ready to handle that, I have an amazing Excel spreadsheet that I'm offering to you guys at an extremely discounted price of just $10. I normally sell it for $27, so I'm offering that to you guys as well. Some other options are Wave. Some people really like that. It's a free accounting software, and it ties directly to your bank. Another option is GoDaddy. I've heard that it's relatively affordable, about $10 a month. And several of the creative business owners in my course use GoDaddy and really, really like it. They have a GoDaddy website, and so it ties in very well to their website. So that's how you should track your expenses, what expenses you should be tracking. I will see you guys later on this week for the live Q&A. If you have any questions, I'll see you then.